a bit of kicking and screaming. Marriage equality is now the law of the land, and while more needs to be done to enshrine equality under the law, already the debate is turning from laws to hearts and minds. Specifically, how much space are we supposed to allow for the remaining minority of Americans who would like to persist in their anti-gay views? Should we accept homophobia as a legitimate religious belief? This is the question at hand when you hear 2016 candidates talking about what they call religious freedom, or about their horror that a baker who opposes gay marriage might be called upon to bake a cake for a gay wedding. They would argue, in Justice Alito's framing, that those who, quote, cling to their old beliefs should be able to do so loudly in public and face no judgment for doing so. This is a bunch of jiggery-pokery. Just as we don't tolerate racial bias, we do not have to, and in fact should not, tolerate anti-gay bias. Here, as in the marriage equality ruling, the lessons of Loving v. Virginia are instructive. Loving is, of course, the landmark civil rights case that struck down laws forbidding interracial marriage. It's in essence the basis for this new decision. Just as two people of different races can't be barred from marriage, two people of the same sex cannot be barred from marriage. And, I would argue, just as we don't tolerate bias against interracial couples, we should not tolerate bias against gay ones either. But, Loving is different, conservatives would argue. Here's Ted Cruz making the case.
Let me ask you this. If a state clerk refused to issue a marriage license to an interracial couple, would you agree with that too?
Well, there's no religious backing for that.
Unfortunately, there was a religious backing for this racial discrimination, or at least that was what was argued at the time. A Virginia trial judge ruling against the Loving said this: Almighty God created the races white, black, yellow, Malay, and red, and he placed them on separate continents. The fact that he separated the races shows that he did not intend for the races to mix. And he was far from alone in that view. In fact, at the time that Loving was decided, only about 20% of Americans supported interracial marriages. More than a few of those 80% that oppose such marriages justified their views as sincerely held religious beliefs. Like, for example, Mississippi Senator Theodore Bilbo, who wrote in a book with the charming title, Take Your Choice, Separation or Mongrelization, that allowing the blood of the races to mix was a direct attack on the divine plan of God. So no, racial bigotry is not made acceptable by a religious pretext, and anti-gay bigotry is not made acceptable by one either. I don't have to be tolerant of your intolerance, an intolerance that exacts a real cost on real human beings. You are, of course, protected by the First Amendment to say and think and advocate for whatever abhorrent views you want. But as far as cloaking your bigotry in a patina of religious freedom, well, that's just pure applesauce. All right, that does it for the cycle. Now with